All right. So today we are going to talk about your Aura Ring
Yeah.
that I have heard a lot about. Yeah, we have some questions about your review and kind of what you thought about it because you've had it for a couple years now, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, thought it'd be good to kind of talk about wearing it for a year, and then you also took it off for a while, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that as well. So I want to put it in like an ADHD perspective first, and a lot of people with ADHD try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to get the Aura Ring specifically?
So you're right about the impulsivity, by the way. Yeah, we end up buying all sorts of stuff. Why did I decide to give it a go? Well, I was struggling with energy and I was tired quite a lot of the time. And an Oura Ring was really about the challenges around your energy, your wellness. It's not a fitness tracker in the same way as, an Apple Watch might be, although it can do an element of that. But it's more about wellness. It's about changing your habits. And I was struggling to change habits. Obviously, ADHD makes habit changing hard, really hard. So I was thinking, do you know what? Maybe I should give something a try, a little bit of wearable tech, and see whether something will actually help me in a new way.
Right. Yeah, and so yeah, you mentioned impulsivity. I kind of alluded to it. So was the Aura Ring like an impulsive purchase for you, or was it like something you thought through before you decided to buy it?
It was a bit impulsive, if I'm honest. So, I mean, when am I not impulsive? Um, tech's great stuff. Get me spending. Um, Yeah, it was a little bit impulsive, but I was also aware that there was a problem I was actually trying to solve. And one of the things that I always suggest to people is that they have an experimentation mindset. And that's, whether you're working for someone else or in business or your personal life, because no one can know exactly what's going to work for us individually. People can't say this will definitely work for you. So I think I was willing to give it a bit of a try because the challenges were big enough that it was worth some kind of spend.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, just to hop right into it, like what did you like kind of notice as a difference when you first started wearing it? Did you establish any new routines? How was it when you first started wearing it?
Yeah, so the first thing, just to be clear, you need to get a plastic one and then fit to the right ring size. So when I got the final one through, what did I really notice? Well, the app is brilliant. That's fantastic. And I think, many of the other kind of copycat rings now, just sort of follow what Aura did. They made a really good app immediately. It's very simple. You get simple numbers for things like sleep and your activity and stuff. It was simple. And for an ADHD person, you really need things that are very accessible, just really easy. And it didn't overwhelm me with information. It, was nudging me with little things, going, oh, maybe you could try this, maybe you could try that. You seem to have had a sleep that was a little bit like this, so maybe you shouldn't eat so late and stuff like that. So I did notice that I didn't get overwhelmed with information. That was probably the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a good one because we talk a lot about ADHD overwhelm being a really big issue for a lot of
Yes.
ADHD people. I think a lot of people get nervous about kind of getting over inundated with data and information and always feeling like, oh, should I be doing something with this? Should I not be doing something with this? Yeah, so I think that's important.
We're not going to be consistent unless that is the case. We need to kind of get on the roundabout quite slowly because we've already got busy lives and we're thinking of a million things all at once. So, we already have enough. And so anything new that's coming on has to be nice and slow.
Right, exactly. And you mentioned sleep a few times throughout that. So, do you see sleep as a important thing to address for ADHD people?
Yeah, so I mean, a number of my customers actually struggle with sleep. It's not uncommon for ADHD people to struggle. We might struggle to put things down in the evening. Like, if you're doom scrolling a little bit, it's like, oh, just another 20 minutes because, your brain's constantly getting activated with lots of dopamine. Or you might wake up in the middle of the night and then your brain's off. And you're thinking about what am I going to do now? What's going to happen tomorrow? And so on. You can't easily then rest and relax down. The great thing with the Aura Ring was that it gave me some awareness of all of this. And I'd say over the time that I used it, the one thing that I did notice was I probably went from more like 5.5 to 6 hours to more like 7.5 hours sleep. So that was a genuine benefit.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds great.
Mm.
Um, and I also want to talk about the fact that you took it off. So, like, we're talking about all these great things that you noticed while wearing it, but then we also know that you took it off for a little bit. So, I want to know what led you to that.
Well, two things. First off, I wanted to see what would happen with my life if I didn't have it. That was, a key goal. But also, it gave me a little bit of a rash under my finger. So I ended up moving it between fingers, and that became a little bit irritating. And then the rash came back. Now, as far as I can understand, other people don't suffer from this. Maybe I didn't keep it clean enough or dry enough or something like that. But um, did I notice anything when it was off? Did I lose my habits? Well, the great thing was actually no. The year that I was really on it allowed me to change enough of my habits that they became fairly consistent. So the things that I was doing before that led to me, sleeping not as effectively, I kind of stopped doing and sort of didn't really go back to. So it was a really big shift, to be honest, and that year was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's interesting you say that because I would have expected you to say like, "Oh, everything was horrible when I took it
Yeah.
off." So what led you to eventually deciding to start wearing it again if those habits kind of continued?
I decided to pop it back on again just to see how I would do with it. The rash in my finger did eventually come back, so I've kind of moved off it completely now. But again, that might just be a very personal thing to me. I wanted to see again whether there was anything more that it could offer me, or whether really I should almost look at this as something that's improved my sleep. And that was the major thing for me. The All of the kind of nudges that it gives me to do exercise, I have to say it hasn't worked. That didn't make a difference for me. I did find that I wanted to track everything, but I didn't find that it gave me the boost that I needed to actually go in and take some exercise. It didn't push me past that threshold of, right, I'm going to go for, some exercise or a walk. Some people might be different with that. We all get activated by different things. So it didn't work for me, and I don't feel like I needed it anymore. But I actually do think it was worth having.
Okay, great. And you mentioned sleep is a big one for you, but the fitness wasn't as much. Is there anything else in the app? I think we've mentioned like there might be a mindfulness aspect. I don't really remember.
Yeah, yeah. There's some extra bits and pieces, but the problem with all of that kind of stuff is that it's all in different places within the app, and also not quite as in your face. So what I found was I would go on my Aura every morning. The first thing when I wake up, I'd be like, right, I wonder what my sleep was like. And that carried on for pretty much a year, but other stuff I didn't manage to be consistent with it. I didn't build habits around it. So I think the key thing that I got from it, which might be different for other people, was really the sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I know I have a family member that also has an Aura Ring and they
Mm.
actually love it for the fitness aspect of it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it is personal to the person, like which aspects of it will be effective depending on, what your biggest challenges are and what your focuses are and things like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but I've always thought that if it's a fitness tracker, like why wouldn't you just get an Apple Watch or why wouldn't you just get, a Fitbit or like some other fitness tracker? Do you like agree with that?
To be honest, yes, because I mean, um, it's not that accurate as a fitness tracker. So if you want accuracy, go somewhere else. If you're doing, for example, weight training, you'll get scratched. It'll get scratched on the back. There's some activities you can't even really leave it on for. So I think, to me, if I wanted some kind of fitness device, I'd get, one of the belts that you put around your arm, or, something like that. If I was literally looking to track my fitness, I would do that in a different way. I wouldn't particularly rely on this. It's kind of like a light activity tracker more than a fitness tracker, I would say.
Right. Right. And you mentioned in the beginning, it's like it's not just for fitness tracking. It's for overall wellness tracking because you've
Yes.
mentioned that it's the best for your sleep. Maybe, the mindfulness or stress tracking or suggestions will work better for somebody else. Yeah, so I definitely think it's like overall wellness over a fitness tracker for sure.
It is, and I did notice, for example, though, that on the odd occasion it would spot things like I was coming down with a cold, and that was actually genuinely useful because I could say, right, okay, I'm just going to allow myself to rest for a day or two, and typically, I wouldn't get the cold develop then, so I managed to rest at the right time, not push through, and that actually saved me quite a lot of productivity as well.
Wow, that is very interesting. See, that interests me, the whole kind of tracking when you're about to get sick. Cause like as someone that's in work, right? Cause I, go to work every day. It'd be really great to know if I'm about to have like a rough work week the next week or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's genuinely useful information. And I mean, the fitness trackers and rings and things over time are going to start tracking more things. I think I've seen stuff about, blood pressure and stuff like that. So it's undoubtedly going to be a growing market with more and more information about our wellness. And I mean, would I go back to one? I would possibly give it another go at some point. I might try a different brand to see whether they had less of an impact on my skin. I like the idea of a ring much more than a watch. And maybe this is my slightly kind of autistic tendencies, but I can handle that more than I can handle a watch. I don't like the feeling of a watch quite so much. So for me, a ring was a really good compromise.
Yeah, and I was actually about to ask you about that because ADHD and autism are often intertwined. And so I was going to ask how it works for you from an autistic perspective compared to an ADHD perspective.
Yeah, I was actually really interested when I got it. I was thinking, I wonder whether it'll spot when I'm going to be overstimulated or anything like that.
Mm.
Is there going to be anything on any of the graphs to show that, I'm really overstimulated? No, never
Mm.
showed any of that stuff at all.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, that just isn't something it can spot. I wondered whether it might come through as some kind of almost like illness or something like that, but it just doesn't. Which is fine, that's just how our brains work, I guess, and it's not able to track that. I would say there's one irritation with it, at least the last time I used it. Obviously, things might have changed, but whenever you go into hot water, for example, a bath or something like that, it picks that up as having a kind of almost like an episode of stress because it uses heat to detect your stress levels. So whilst that's very useful, and you might be able to look back on your day and go, oh, yeah, that was a really stressful day for me. That's great information for ADHD people. Use your own judgment a little bit because you can have a day at the spa in nice hot conditions and it goes, your stress levels are through the roof when clearly they weren't. It's the exact opposite. Getting an idea when you're stressed can actually be really useful, particularly if you're working, whether you're an entrepreneur or working for someone else, getting some feel of the amount of stress that you're under can be genuinely beneficial.
Right. Yeah. And I like how you say that you're talking about overstimulation, which I think is cool because that is an issue for a lot of people. And even if like people are just struggle with anxiety, they can get overstimulated very
Yeah.
easily. And they might be looking for a solution to that. And I wonder if when it maybe starts measuring blood pressure and things like that as it progresses in the future, if it could start measuring that because I notice if I'm overstimulated, like I definitely know my blood pressure is rising.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that could be, a future consideration, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we will. The great thing for me is that with more information, we can make more decisions. And it's very hard for particularly autistic people to know how we feel. I don't always know. I can't always tell. It might I might be aware of it like 3 hours later or a day later or something. I might be like, oh yeah, that was happening for me. So if it can start to, help autistic people with, their own feelings, I think that would be really beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, just to close it out. So, just kind of like final thoughts. If someone is thinking about getting one, and isn't sure, still on the fence, what would you want them to know?
So Aura has a monthly charge. You need to take that into account. Some of the others rings don't. So you get to decide, do you want Aura or do you want something else? I don't necessarily think that I would still be getting a lot of benefit from it after my first year. So it might be something that helps you for a year to get some kind of tune up in parts of your life. You can use that information to make changes. It's like, oh yeah, every Monday this happens and I'm really stressed. Maybe I might go make some changes. So I think it's really useful for that kind of stuff. I think it's particularly useful for sleep. That's its most useful thing for me, at least. I think after that, do I think today's version, do I think I would continue on with it? I'm not sure I would. If I thought it'd give me more information, for example, with my kind of autistic side, I think I would have another go with it.
Okay. Yeah, and I just want to mention that which version do you have? Because I know they might have a newer version since the one you have.
I think I'm on an Aura Ring 3.
Okay. I don't know what the newest one is, but I think there is a newer one
There
since
is, yeah.
then, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so I think we've talked about that before though, and you said that the differences aren't enough for you to think about getting a newer one.
Not based on the latest changes to the 4, no.
Okay, yeah. So it's probably applicable still, but I was just like wanting to make clear that you don't have quote unquote the newest version, but the newest version doesn't seem to be that much different from the one that you have, if I'm saying that correctly.
Not hugely.
Okay, perfect. Um, yeah, so I think that's a good comprehensive review of the Aura Ring, and yeah, I appreciate it.
See you in the next video.